What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Saturday Crunch Time, an evening if you're on the East Coast, afternoon on the West Coast show. I am Britt Devine. Missed last week, here this week, but everyone that I know from the weekend is gone, and Mr. Derek Hardy and Taylor Smith have jumped in to save the day. I'll first start with Mr. Derek Hardy. What's going on? I know you had a birthday. I try to text you. I know I'm so busy, dude. It's very hard for me to respond to texts within like 3 or 4 days sometimes. Sorry to blow you off on those, but welcome to the show today.
Oh, that's all right. I understand how it goes. Good. I feel like it's been a while since we did a show together, so I'm excited.
Yeah, always lots of fun. And Taylor, what's going on with you today?
Yeah, not much. Got a nice little 9 games on DK slate tonight, so should be fun. I like our little random weekend lineup we got here, so looking forward to getting into it.
Now, Taylor, is the tan you have going on is very different from what me and Derek have going on. So where's that from? What have you been up to? I don't go outside.
I live in California, so I feel like it's kind of the default feature, So touch grass every now and then, I guess.
Much different from what me and Derek are doing. We're out on the East Coast, not in nice sunny California, although it is pretty nice out here where I am today. Anyway, I've got a little weather news. If Steve, you want to throw up the screen share here. So normally in Colorado, and Derek mentioned this pre-show, Colorado's always fine. It doesn't matter if Roth has it red, orange, yellow, purple, green, blue, red, anything. Colorado always plays. But it's yellow-orange, and I just saw a tweet from Mr. Kevin Roth. I've got it up on the screen here. He put a fresh coat of paint on this. Someone asked him, best guess of a postponement in Colorado. And he has it at 15%, which to me, for Colorado, seems astronomically high for a game played in Coors Field. He's going to give it a look closer to first pitch. However, we don't really have the ability to wait until first pitch for an update on that. We have to make most of our lineup decisions around 7 o'clock or so. So with that said, Mr. Cardy, first, I'm going to throw it to you. How does this change what you want to do? I know the bat, I know the RotoGrinders projections, everything's putting these San Francisco bats in there, even some Colorado bats. What's your thoughts on this from a safety risk-reward perspective?
I mean, the thing is, it is a really good spot for the Giants. The righties project really well. 15% is higher than I would like to see, especially in Coors Field. Like, we know Coors Field, there's always some rain risk. It's always fine. For Roth to have an orange, for him to say 15%, that does worry me a little bit. There are other things to like on this slate. I don't know exactly what I want to do with this yet.
All right, I just sent out a Roth update. Can we get a 650 update, please? We'll see if he will update us a little bit closer to lock here today. I just wanted to note that to everybody. I'm currently sitting on my cash teams on both FanDuel and DraftKings with San Francisco players, and I'm not scared off yet. If I have to swap some things around, I'll figure it out as the night progresses. But I'm currently moving ahead. Taylor, what's your thoughts on this? More of a tournament perspective? I think the general consensus is just going to be to forge ahead with your San Francisco and Colorado bats. How would you handle that right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm planning on right now. I'm not baiting anybody based on this, only because Colorado, like we've been saying, has a reputation for playing through it and waiting it out. And the yellow is the lead, so it's yellow-orange, so I feel better about that than if it was orange-yellow, something like that. So as of now, I'm leaving it in, but certainly subject to change.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that to everybody. Make your own decisions. Look up on your own weather app. Try to figure it out yourself. If you're relying on Roth, I'll see if you can send anything out a little later or gets the tweet I sent out. Anyway, let's go to some of the things we do know on the slate. And Cardi, I'm going to start with you with starting pitching. It's a little bit, there's no, I was looking at ownership. I was looking at projections. I was trying to figure things out for myself today. And I think the top, 3 to 5 arms are generally all about the same. You can, put one a couple fantasy points more than the other, but, within the air bands of what you would sort of expect out of any given outcome today. What are you looking at today? You can go. I don't think we need to go to the super expensive arms. Guys like Cease, against Cleveland, probably not. I think the bat's even down on him a little bit too. Cleveland, not the greatest strikeout team in the world. You get Peralta at a discount. You get Kirby at home. You get Singer at home against Chicago. Gallen's on the road. Always give him a little ding in my personal book on that, but it's against Chicago, who's sort of falling apart a little bit here. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's kind of like you said, there's a bunch of viable options. There's nobody that's really separating themselves. I think Peralta's probably my favorite guy. On FanDuel, where you only get one, I think you probably play Peralta. On DK, I think he's going to be one of your guys. But like that top five or so are all pretty close. The discount you get on Singer, I think, is nice. Even Pablo Lopez, you're getting a little bit of a discount on, and hasn't looked great on the surface, of late, and so you might get him at a little bit of a lower ownership than he should be. Framber is under 8K against Seattle, which is really interesting. And honestly, if it weren't for that rain risk, I'd tell you Logan Webb at low ownership in Coors would be somewhat viable here. But the rain makes me a little skittish. I mean, it's already Coors, but Colorado's terrible. They strike out. Logan Webb's good, long leash, the whole deal, and you're getting a huge discount on him for his talent. So, I don't think you have to get too weird beyond that cluster of guys today. I mean, once you start going below that Framber, Logan Webb price tag, like you're not really left with anything. You're left with, Gavin Williams, Kyle Hendricks, Kyle Freeland. Like I anyone else is kind of just unnecessary beyond those top 7 guys that I mentioned.
Yeah, I think Peralta and oh my goodness, Singer are probably my 2 favorites. Specifically, the discount you get on Singer on DraftKings looks very nice. What do you think about Kirby? You didn't really mention him too much. He's one of the guys I always like when he's at home. I don't know if the bat probably doesn't put too much into the home road splits, but he's been basically the most consistent of all of these guys over, the last 2 months. He really hasn't had a bad game. He's already had a good game against Houston. That was included in that stretch. Again, at home, the Houston lineup outside of the top 3 or 4 bats, not really anything to worry about. He's hit a little bit more by lefties. Of course, there's Jordan Alvarez, but the other lefties in the Astros lineup aren't really anything to really worry about today. Where do you stand on him overall?
I actually like Kirby quite a bit. You're right that I didn't mention him, but if I was going to pick like a top 2 today, it's probably Peralta and Kirby. I think on DK, they make the most sense to pair together in cash games from an optimal perspective. I like Kirby a lot. I bet his under walks earlier this morning, and he projects really well. So yeah, I'm on Kirby.
Yeah, I go to bet those once they're on Scores and Odds, and within like 2 seconds, one, I can bet about 30 cents on MGM, so that really doesn't do anything good for me. But then 2 on the other books, it's moved within about 3 seconds to odds that don't even, well, sometimes they still make sense even when they move a lot. You got to get on those quick when Cardi posts the bets wherever they are. Taylor from tournaments. Among all the top guys, let's try to maybe Peralta and Kirby. Do you have a favorite between those 2 today?
It's super close. I have them pretty similar in terms of my exposure. It's like identical actually right now. So I don't think there's one like leaps and bounds in front of the other. Like we don't typically play against Houston, but Kirby is affordable. The walks are always low. Houston's lineup's not at full strength right now. Great park. I might give him a slight edge because he's 200 cheaper, but I really don't think there's not a gap really between them. I like them both quite a bit. I do find myself going quite a bit into the 8K range as well. As of now, my highest owned pitcher is Logan Webb. I would like that to hold because he's cheap and, it's Coors, but Colorado at Coors is not a very imposing offense still, and he's just way underpriced for who he is. And the ground balls, in theory, should be good for him there. Obviously, the weather is a huge concern, and if there's potential for a start and in-game delay, I'm going to have to come off of him. But if it's a late start type of situation, I might just let it roll. Valdez, 7.9, I think looks really good. I think Singer might be the chalkiest option in that range just because he's facing the White Sox. I don't think that's bad chalk necessarily. But as of now, I do have more Webb and Framber. Beyond that, I'm not really loving anything. I think Lopez is okay because he's under 9K. He's been a little unlucky this season. But Milwaukee's not really an offense I'm super excited to pick on. And then beyond that, it's like a dart throw with Gallen is fine, but I just prefer Kirby and Peralta in the low 9s today.
Yeah, if this was in San Francisco, he in theory should be the highest priced pitcher on the slate. You're obviously getting the Coors discount, and there's a little bit of rain. Just again, make sure to check the weather on that Coors game before you make your final decision. You're not really going to have too much to choose from. You're basically going to need by 7:20, 7:15, 7:10, almost right at lock to make your decision on this, because there's really not many pivots later in the night on that one. All right. Anything else at pitcher? I think we're good on there. Let's go to offense in general. Cardi, where are we drawing bats from? If we're not scared of any rain delay, again, guys, Roth has the Colorado game, if you're just tuning in, yellow-orange. And I procured a tweet from him. He has a 15% possible postponement, which almost never happens in Coors. So that, even seeing anything possible postponement in Coors is putting alarm bells off in my head slightly. I'm still going to forge ahead with them until I get another update from him, hopefully. But outside of the San Francisco offense, Cardi, which looks like everyone wants to play, what else is viable tonight?
Yeah, I think kind of almost as good as San Francisco today is like the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Royals. I think they're all good today. None are going to be really sneaky. But especially if you are scared off a little bit by the rain, you just want something that's less owned than San Francisco. I think all three of those are definitely high-level stacks today. On the sneakier side, I think the Orioles against Max Scherzer are actually really interesting. Like, Scherzer hasn't quite been himself. He's a guy who has given up power to opposing-handed hitters in his career. A lot of lefties in there for Baltimore today. And I think they're going to come in quite a bit lower owned than some of these other ones we talk about. But I don't know if they're all that much worse. So I think they're kind of my sneaky offense today.
Yeah, outside of Gunnar, everyone projected for under 10% ownership on at least on DraftKings currently. Taylor, what do you think of this? Obviously we know to play San Francisco. What do you think if you're on Webb, you're probably not on Colorado on the opposite side. What else are you looking at for offense from a tournament perspective?
Yeah, I normally do get to Colorado, but today I'm not really there. Obviously, it's fine because it's Coors and anything can happen. Like we saw last night, I think they scored 7 or 8 runs or something. So even the worst offense can rise up every now and then. But I think Cardi pretty much nailed it. I was going to bring up the Orioles, the Dodgers. Those are my 2 highest owned stacks as of now. Arizona, a close third with Kyle Hendricks pitching for Chicago. San Francisco, of course. Kansas City should be pretty obvious. I think they have a pretty high total tonight. Milwaukee against Pablo Lopez isn't the worst idea if you want to target some kind of sneaky, unowned power. But I'm pretty concentrated with Dodgers, Orioles, Diamondbacks, and Giants on this slate.
All right, let's throw position by position. Catcher, probably not playing one of those on your FanDuel unless you're doing it from a tournament perspective. On DraftKings, Cardi, I would like to be able to spend up on some of the more expensive catchers today. I'm just not finding myself for the money. I'm choosing to find a Shohei Ohtani, and that just costs a lot of money on DraftKings and even on FanDuel today. He is a little bit more manageable on FanDuel than DraftKings. So it's just making me sacrifice a little bit. How are you approaching catcher?
Yeah, I agree that catcher is definitely a spot where you can sacrifice a little bit. Like if you can get up to Will Smith, if you can get up to Salvador Perez, great. Adley Rutschman certainly is a one-off in tournaments, certainly in your Baltimore stacks. I like him a lot at what's going to be pretty low ownership for how good he is. But I think just point per dollar wise, like Connor Wong is in a good spot in LA against Roboleski. You have Kurt Casale in Coors against Freeland for 3K. Those are kind of the plays that I think make the most sense. Gabriel Moreno in the mid 3s. I think they make other stuff work. There's so much to like today at other positions that I think you can kind of just save here and spend up elsewhere.
Yeah. So from tournaments, does that mean, Taylor, you want to spend up at catcher, or are you sacrificing that position generally to afford some of those other players that, could? I mean, catcher can have multiple home runs, but there's a lot of guys in really good spots today, like Hardy said.
Yeah, I am paying up for Smith and Rutschman most of the time. But like I said, I'm trying to play a lot of Valdez Webb lineups. I'm hoping that can be a thing I do based on the weather in Colorado. But yeah, I think that's kind of flipping the build. If people are going to be saving at catcher, then paying up makes sense. Maybe find value elsewhere at some of these other thin infield positions. So Smith and Rutschman look great. I love the Connor Wong call against Roboleski. Salvador Perez, I think, might be the chalkier of the expensive catchers, but no problem with him. And Gabriel Moreno hitting in the middle of Arizona's lineup looks like a decent value too.
All right, let's go to first base. You have Ohtani on FanDuel, first base. Or no, he's just outfield on FanDuel. He's first base / outfield on DraftKings. I'm finding him in the outfield on DraftKings because on first base you can get Wilmer Flores, who's not really having a great season, but he's in Coors with the splits. Basically, the top of any expectation you would get from a Wilmer Flores would be today, and he's cheap. It allows you to work in a lot of other things. I think Freddie Freeman's a very fine play as well. You want lefties against Brian Bello. But again, he's probably just a little bit too expensive. Flores gives you the upside, in theory, playing in Coors at a cheap price lets you get some players elsewhere. Cardi, are you with me?
I am. I mean, and you didn't even mention the biggest selling point for Wilmer Flores is that as chat knows, especially YouTube chat, this guy is a certified lefty masher. Anytime you can get him against a lefty, you want to play him, but especially in Coors, I mean, like, come on, just he's going to be automatic.
I gotta follow reference and find his in Coors versus lefty splits, Cardi.
But yeah, no, as much as that kind of thing actually doesn't matter, he's a fantastic play today because he's cheap. He's in Coors. He's in the middle of the lineup. He's got the platoon advantage against Kyle Freeland. If you can get up to Ohtani, I love it. Freeman in your Dodger stacks, Walker in the Arizona stacks, Pasquantino in the KC stacks. But just from a pure like point per dollar optimal perspective, Flores is clearly the play here.
Yeah, the RotoGrinders projections just on DraftKings have him as the third highest projected fantasy points. I know the bat's high on him too, and that's at 3,500. So he's a very fine play in my opinion. Taylor, what do we like? What's your exposure on Ohtani look like? To me, like from cash, I'm going to Ohtani tonight, right? Like I'm going to have him. This is an amazing spot for him at Dodger Stadium. Bello, you want the lefties. That Boston bullpen before the break was absolutely horrific. These could be A+++ at bats for him all game long. Are you sacrificing generally to get him, or are you sacrificing him to get some of the other things you want?
I'm sacrificing to get him. I think playing him in the outfield might make more sense on DK, where you can play him at both, just because we do have Flores in such a good spot at first base only on DK. There are a few others in that range. I think Michael Busch as a one-off against Zach Gallen hitting second is okay. Ryan O'Hearn, we've talked about the Orioles, the lefty hitting cleanup for them against Scherzer, I think looks really good at under 4K. Otherwise, it's the same stuff. Freeman, of course, Christian Walker in or outside of an Arizona stack looks good to me. And Vinny P, lefties against Jonathan Cannon are certainly a thing, so he's going to stand out quite a bit.
Yeah, Vinny P and Ryan O'Hearn were the two I was going to throw out for tournaments that I like quite a bit tonight. Let's go to second. Cardi, what's that look like for you today?
So second's a spot where I don't really love the high end. I think this is another spot where you can definitely just punt it and be fine. If you are spending up, Ketel Marte is the guy that I like the best. You have Estrada in Coors in the mid-range, but like he's not great. You can only play so many Giants. Like he's not cheap on DraftKings at least. On FanDuel at 2.9, definitely more affordable. On DK, if you just want to punt with like Chris Taylor or you get the Bearman Justin Foscue today, like I think that's fine because
what is that? What is a
What's that?
Justin Foscue?
What is a Justin Foscue?
It's a 2K second baseman on DraftKings. That's
2K second baseman. Yeah. I actually bet his under hitter strikeouts today. He's got pretty good plate discipline. He's not anything special, but he's 2K and he lets you spend up at other positions that have more to offer than second base does. So yeah, Michael Massey. I mean, I like the KC stuff, but Michael Massey's a guy I feel like he used to play this guy for like 2.5K and now he's like 4.2. And it's like, do I really want to pay that for Michael Massey? Casey's good today. He's fine. You know, in terms of what else is on the slate, like, yeah, he's great, but I don't know. Second base is really thin today. I'm curious what you guys think.
I do have a Massey plus 750 home run ticket out there, so I did put that into the sports books today. Taylor, what are you looking at second base? Do you want to save here? There are I do agree, Estrada on FanDuel, not so much on DraftKings, and I actually am sitting with Justin Foscue at the bare minimum 2K because these are the sacrifices you have to make to play some decent pitching along with Shohei Ohtani on DraftKings today.
Yeah, I think there's not really opportunity cost here, so you can go down. Foscue is one on my radar for sure. Gavin Lux, we like the lefties against Bayo. He's a lefty, maybe not a good one, but it'll do, especially if you're stacking the Dodgers. Cardi mentioned Chris Taylor. That's really it. Like Marte, I think, is the top guy by a pretty wide margin, but I don't think it's at all necessary to spin up for him. But if most people are paying down at second, like they are at catcher, presumably, then paying up for him should be somewhat contrarian, I would think.
All right. Third base, cash games, Cardi, or basically in general, it's Matt Chapman day. There's really no one else in the projections tier, either from the bat or the RotoGrinders projections. His price is reasonable. This seems like one of the easier clicks of the day.
Yeah, in cash, you're just playing Matt Chapman. There's not even a conversation. So really, it's just a matter of what you're doing to be different in tournaments. And there are ways to do that. Devers today looks really good. Jose Ramirez is going to come in super low owned because he's against Cease. But, I mean, he's got the highest upside on the slate aside from probably Chapman and Devers. So I like him quite a bit. If you do need to save some money, Adam Frazier is leading off for KC tonight. I think he's fine. But really it's Chapman and then, take some shots in tournaments.
And then Taylor, I'm just trying to see if there's any updates from Roth on Coors. I don't see anything yet. So let's continue at third base. Chapman ownership. What's that look like for you? Would you be over, under, in line, coming in about 20%, which is approaching sort of the very high end of an MLB tournament ownership on a 9-game slate for DraftKings?
Yeah, I'm right around the field. I think playing him as a one-off is okay, but it's probably more ideal in a giant stack, I would think. But this is another position like Ramirez, Devers, even Austin Riley are okay. No one's going to play any of them. So if you want to just, completely pivot the position away from the mega chalk guy, there are alternatives. Jordan Westberg, another one, if you want to stack Baltimore. I'm getting to more Ramon Urias among the Orioles you can play here. He's only 2,200, buried in the 9-hole, but we do need some savings with stacking the O's. So that's one way to get it. And I don't mind Eugenio Suarez. He's also buried hitting 7th for Arizona, but decent power hitter in theory. Kyle Hendricks not going to miss bats. So that's kind of an ideal spot for a higher strikeout hitter like Suarez. So I don't mind him tonight either.
All right, we'll close out the shortstop and outfield in just a second. But first, let me tell you about RotoGrinders Premium. You can get ahead of the competition with your RG Premium. You've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. You can get a 6-month subscription for $469. That saves you $250 instead of buying it every month. If you're not a fan of commitment, you can get a month of RotoGrinders Combo Premium for $120. And if you want to check it out for 3 days, you can get a 3-day pass for $19.99. Included in RotoGrinders Premium is SimLabs. And SimLabs is the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs. It's available for PGA and MLB right now. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built, correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing in. Get with the Sims. Make sure to check that out with your RotoGrinders Premium subscription. All right, shortstop, Cardi. 2 names, very expensive tonight. Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson. Cannon, the split so far this year, you want the lefties against him almost exclusively. He's been reasonably good against righties. How is that playing into your decisions today? You've got the Corey Seager versus a Coors bat against Logan Webb in Ezekiel Tovar, who's having himself a reasonable season as well here. So who would be your preference among the high end, Witt and Henderson, your preference between Seager and Tovar, and then are you looking at anybody else?
So yeah, Cannon does project for a wide split, so you prefer lefties against him. But Witt is so good that he's Witt. He projects really well anyway. He would be my top guy here. I like him more than Henderson, but I do think he'll be higher owned. So I mentioned the Orioles kind of being sneaky in tournaments today. Like Gunnar Henderson as a one-off or in your Orioles stacks, I think is really great. In terms of Seager Tovar, I think it's one of those where it's like Seager overall, but Tovar might be a little bit lower owned. So maybe you go, and he's a little bit cheaper. So like maybe you play Tovar more in tournaments. Yeah, that's kind of how I break down the top end of shortstop today.
Yeah, I'm not finding myself liking the low end. This seems like a position you generally want to spend on today. It's been this way pretty much all season. It's basically the most stacked position, even more so than outfield.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the low end of shortstop today is really like you can play Paul DeYoung or Nicky Lopez or like there's really, you don't want to have to do that today.
I think the lowest I'd be comfortable would be like a Mason Wynn maybe against Bryce Elder on DraftKings, but that's still 4,100. Tovar and Seager are much more expensive, and those are just much better bats today. So very tough for me to get away from those top four on DraftKings. What about you, Taylor? Are you concentrating on those known commodities, or are you dumpster diving?
Yeah, ideally, I'm not dumpster diving here. This is not typically a position you want to do that. I have a bit more Henderson than Witt just for ownership today, but both are fantastic. The cheapie I'm getting to the most is Geraldo Perdomo, just because I'm stacking Arizona quite a bit, but he's hitting ninth. He's not very good. Maybe he can steal a base or two and get there, but not the most fun thing in the world. I don't mind the Mason Wynn call because Bryce Elder is really nothing special either, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to get much attention on DK. Otherwise, Seager, good call. I think Willy Adames is interesting just as a kind of power hitting shortstop that is going to get zero ownership today. And beyond that, there's not much else to like. I guess Rafaela, if you're stacking Boston, but that's another guy hitting ninth.
All right, let's go to the outfield. Cardi for me, Ohtani. I think he's best to play. I'm playing Ohtani. He's very attainable on FanDuel today. A little tougher on DraftKings, but you can still get him there. Specifically, if you find a 2K punt or a 3K punt or two along the way. I see chat is asking this question. And this is something I've been going back and forth on, and I think I'm slightly disagree with the bats take on it. Soler or Ramos, if you're playing one of these Giants outfielders. I'm paying the premium for Ramos today over Soler, even though Soler's leading off. Anything I look at, I know in the past, right? I know Cardi, the bat looks at everything that's happened in the past. But this season, Ramos, everything on a StatCast, everything that he's doing is just years better, light years ahead of what Jorge Soler is doing. Not just the surface numbers, but everything underneath it too. I'm paying the premium. What are you doing there?
They project almost identically. I would trust the bat and probably go with Soler. He's a little bit cheaper. He does project a little better. There's probably not going to be much difference in terms of ownership. Even the under the surface numbers, even the StatCast stuff, like there's still noise in those. We still have to expect, Ramos to get a little bit worse with those, Soler to get a little bit better. But we're kind of just like, we're kind of nitpicking here. Like Soler and Ramos are very good plays, both of them. I think there's definitely ways to play both of them as well. But Soler, if I'm forced to choose, I guess would be the guy that I go with.
All right, Taylor, where do you split the difference here? I agree that they are very close. And I think maybe bat in leadoff tonight, you get that extra at bat in the ninth inning, something like that. That may prove to be the tiebreaker overall. How are you handling it?
Yeah, I'm pretty much just playing them both. I guess I would give Soler the slight edge because he's a bit cheaper and leading off. But like you said, Ramos's numbers are pretty unimpeachable. So no qualms with either one. Otherwise, I'm getting to quite a bit of Corbin Carroll leading off against Kyle Hendricks. Not a great season for him, but good spot. Stolen bases are a thing, so potentially gets there. I like the Orioles outfielders. They have 4 of them you can play, and 3 are 34 or less on DK. Santander being the exception, but Kauser, Mullins, and Kierstad are all cheap, so I don't mind that. They're all lefties too against Scherzer. Otani, of course, Teoscar Hernandez in your Dodger stack looks great. I don't hate an Andrew Benintendi one-off as a $2,600 outfielder against Singer. Wide split righty, Benintendi with platoon edge is okay. Maybe more of a cash thing than a tournament thing, but he's cheap enough to where it's fine. Andy Pajes looks good under 4K. And then I like Tyler O'Neill a bit against that lefty starting for the Dodgers.
All right, Cardi, let's play a couple of this guy or that guy questions. Let's go DraftKings. You want Frazier or Benintendi? Benintendi's 300 less.
Benintendi for sure. I think he's great today at that price.
All right, you want what are we doing with Corbin Carroll? What's the bats take? I know the bat's been on him. What I like to see, I haven't really been using him pretty much all season, but he had the 2 home run game and another game with a home run in recent. And I think if there's ever a player, maybe a lot of it's had to do with his injury from last year, still carrying over. He has a 2 home run game, has another home run in a game. Maybe that's starting to break the trend of him being a horrible player this year. I'm back in on him. I'm jumping in and trying to use him today.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's playing injured, or at least was. When I've kind of said a bunch of times the projection on him is going to be too high because projections can't really account for that. But he has started to look pretty good lately. The matchup's really good. The price is reasonable. I'm always a little wary with Corbin Carroll. I like him more on FanDuel at 3,100 than I like him on DK at 4.6. But I do think he's a good play on. I think he's at least a guy you're considering.
Yeah, I had actually I misspoke. So I wanted to play him on FanDuel. I conceded to Jock Peterson, who's 2,800. He's a little less, and no concerns with his injury. He's Jock Peterson. He's having a reasonably good season, better than Corbin Carroll so far. At least at the plate, maybe not with the stolen bases. Is that a reasonable concession to make if you need $300 on FanDuel today?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I like the spot for Arizona. I think Peterson's a good play today. I don't have a problem with that.
All right, and then a couple cheapies. We've got what do we got? We got Drew Waters on FanDuel at 2,100. Is he someone that's viable for you? And then we've got a Victor Robles at 2,300. I think I'd rather play Foscue at second base for 2K than play a Victor Robles cheapie in the outfield, if that makes any sense to you.
I agree with you. I would rather do that as well. The Drew Waters thing is my favorite way to get really cheap. 2-1 on FanDuel, even at 3-2 on DraftKings. I think that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I like the Baltimore outfield stuff that we mentioned before, the outfielders, and yeah, that's I think that's kind of what I'm on today.
All right. Yeah. Why are the likes so low? It's because there's no Spidey bombs. Side note, my 2-year-old, we went to a garage sale today and they had a Spider-Man figure. And let me tell you, this kid has not let the Spider-Man figure go. It is his new favorite thing. So if Spidey bombs were a thing today, they're not. I guess I gave you Michael Massey. He was $750 earlier. I forgot which book. Go check and see if he's anywhere close to that. I would play that to like $675 or something like that. I think that was the only home run pick I had. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Let's get to some questions here after you guys click the like button. Let's see what we got here. But let's see. ATL bats against Sonny Gray. So I've been trying to. I've been betting with Sonny Gray over the past couple of starts, and it's not been going with me in a variety. No matter which way I try to attack the Cardinals winning or something where Sonny Gray pitches well, it hasn't gone too well. What do we think about the Atlanta bats against a guy like Gray today, Cardi?
They seem unnecessary today. Like, they're not bad. They're Atlanta, but Sonny Gray's a pretty good pitcher, and there's just a bunch of better options today, I think.
I'm going to look at the ownership. Taylor, are you on any of these guys offense wise from this game? The highest projected Offensive bat looks to be around 8% from this game. So it looks like no one's really drawing ownership.
No, I prefer the St. Louis side. Atlanta, like Sonny Gray, I just don't see the point in picking on him today. There are other pitchers that are bad that we can pick on. So it is a high upside offense. You can always play this team if you're entering like a 150 or something like that, but not really on my radar today.
All right, let's get to people have pitcher questions. Cash, Cardi, Peralta, or Singer, FanDuel, Cash? I think the answer is yes, but do you have a preference?
My preference would be Peralta.
All right, I think I'm probably a little closer than you on those. I don't have the extra $100, so I'm on Singer. If I had $100 extra, I would probably go to Peralta. But I think those are probably your two answers, at least to me, on FanDuel today. Let's see a couple more. Gallon or Peralta for a DraftKings tournament. I'll go to you, Taylor, on that one. Who do you prefer on that?
It's Peralta. I'm not really on Gallon today. The strikeout stuff, Peralta is just significantly better, and I really don't think he's going to be overwhelmingly popular. So I'm fine with Peralta, even if he's going to be the chalkier of the two.
All right. Cheap outfielders for a FanDuel casher tournament. So he said Drew Waters is there. He's 2,100. That's probably, he's hitting 7th, but it's a reasonable spot for him today. Is there anyone else that's cheap on FanDuel, Cardi?
Yeah, there's a few other guys you can think about. James Outman's 2.2K, Jamie Westbrook's min price, Chris Taylor's 2.4. I think there's definitely Tyler Fitzgerald plays like 3 or 4 positions on FanDuel, and he's setting 2.7. There's some viable cheap guys that aren't worse.
I have no tweet from Roth, an update on that game. We basically have to make a decision. I'm going ahead as planned. I've searched non-Roth Twitter for weather takes on that game. I'm fine playing the San Francisco bats. I'm fine playing Colorado bats. If you want to play Logan Webb, I think I'm even reasonably okay with that one as it stands. Is anyone doing anything different with Roth having that game yellow-orange?
Not as of now.
No, I think I'm the same.
All right, so we're all forging ahead with our San Francisco bats. Let's see. Paul from YouTube wants to know Peterson or Santander for a DraftKings tournament. Taylor, I'll go to you on that one.
I'll take Santander there. I think he's going to be a bit more, bit less owned, so I think he's where I lean.
Let's see here. Perhaps this is all home runs. This is a parlay, a home run, a 4-person parlay home run. That's just a little bit too much. Probably not going to hit. Although you make a lot of money if you hit correct on a 4-person home run parlay. That's a little outside of my realm. Maybe I'll do 2 home runs for a parlay once in a while. Valdez against the Mariners. I know, Cardi, you mentioned he was reasonably interesting to you. He had the spike in strikeouts last game against the Marlins. Duh. I mean, it's the Mariners. This could happen again. He's cheap. Do you want to take? I think this is coming more so. Is he going to be popular? I can bring up the most recent ownership. So he looks like he's going to be the 3rd highest owned pitcher. Does that seem okay to you? And this question is, hey, can I try to go against that with a Mariner stack tonight?
Yeah, it's the kind of slate where it doesn't really look like any pitchers are going to carry such high ownership that you're going to get enough leverage by stacking against them, especially since none of the teams against them really project all that well anyway. I mean, you can in a 150 max or something, but like, I don't think you need to.
So I just refreshed the ownership projections, and they are updated just a few minutes ago. Framber got pushed down to 5th. Logan Webb is the highest owned pitcher. Is that in a tournament? Does that seem? I don't think.
I mean, the weather might scare people away, right?
I think the bat having 4th highest owned.
Yeah, that seems a little bit more. I would think Singer, Peralta, and Logan or George Kirby are certainly going to be higher owned than.
I think Singer might be like pretty chalky in that range, right?
Yeah, I think Singer's going to be the chalkiest pitcher on DraftKings personally. Maybe Peralta, those two. Who knows? Let's see. DraftKings single entry. Matos and Pablo or Ramos and Webb for a DraftKings single entry. So basically, this really comes down to the pitchers for me today. Pablo or Webb? Cardi, I'll go to you first.
I really don't mind Webb, but if he's actually going to be like owned, then I like him significantly less because it is Colorado. I guess give me the Pablo side.
If he is, I mean, the projections team's good. I don't know. I think it's going to be very grouped towards the top right. We have all five. The top 5 pitchers are all 20% owned, and the highest is 28. I think that's right from like an ownership grouping on DraftKings, and you can move them all up and down a couple of percents, and they'll all change. But I think Webb, if I had to guess Webb, 20 to 25%, Taylor, that probably seems about right to me, right?
Yeah, if people aren't scared by the weather, I could see him being. I mean, he's cheap. I guess that's the thing. Like he's a kind of name pitcher that's underpriced, so should be pretty popular. I don't know how owned he'll be, but I'm just going to play him regardless.
Infinite, cheap pitcher FanDuel cash. I don't know, like what's the cheapest you want to go on FanDuel today, Cardi?
I mean, I don't really think you want to go cheap on FanDuel. Like,
Singer's the cheapest.
Freddie Peralta for 9.1, Brady Singer for 9K. Like they're kind of as cheap as I would go. And Peralta projects as the best guy on the slate. You're not getting a discount to anyone else. Like Gallen's only 300 cheaper and not as good. And then anything below him is like, do you really want to play Kyle Hendricks? Like I don't. just play Freddie Peralta or someone else in that range.
Jay wants to know FanDuel single entry, Rutschman or Walker. Taylor, I'll throw that to you. I'd probably go give me some Christian Walker on that one. Especially, I don't think he's really going to draw too much ownership at that first base position today.
Yeah, I would take Walker too. If it's a one-off and you're not worried about the correlation, I would just take Walker straight up.
Yeah. Weber Singer DraftKings cash. I would play Singer for sure over Webb, but I don't know if that's a strong take. Does anyone have a preference on those two?
I'd go
especially with the weather. Yeah, Singer just seems like a safer cash play.
All right. Cardi, you got any home run calls we can get on the sports books quick?
Yeah, actually today there were normally it's like weirdos. But today the odds aren't great, but the best odds are for Will Smith. Plus 525 at MGM, it looks like, is probably the best home run play today.
I can certainly get behind a Will Smith home run today. Let's see. I think we hit lineup lock. Let's all pray, hold hands and pray, unless you're being contrarian that the weather in San Francisco, or not in San Francisco, in Coors. Oh, I just closed up. All right, I'm back. I closed up. I closed everything. I have like 4,000 tabs on my other screen here, but we're back in play. Anyway, I hope that game plays for my sake and everyone on the panel's sake and everyone that played San Francisco bats. Unless you're being contrarian, then all the money goes to you today. That's about all I got. Cardi, fun doing a show with you. Taylor, good. I think this is our second show together, maybe third. Glad to see you on the weekends here today. And other than that, I hope everyone has a good Saturday, a good Sunday tomorrow. You can tune into Grinders Live. I won't be here, but there'll be a good crew here for that. And for Cardi and Taylor, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out you.